All right, I'm going to continue this along. We've been talking about the Unix root. I called it RPM, but you know, this beast. Normally, when you develop OS2 programs, you install a compiler. The compiler has everything that you would need. It has include files and library files to build applications under OS2. So I thought, well, the same thing is going on in RPM, but it was kind of hard to find out how it's organized and how it works. I'm not really a Linux programmer. I don't remember the Unix programming I did was a long time ago, and I don't think it's relevant. But so I started along. I guess Greg Young gave me a little push, and he said I better do this. So okay. I'm going to start with just the hello world in C, because it will demonstrate a lot of the things that you have to keep in mind when you're going to start using RPM development. Now, they've put a lot of development tools up in RPM Yum. This is, I think, what they use to manage their own development systems. And it's really kind of, it works well, but if you're not expecting how it works, you're going to get lost. So I know I did. So I'm going to go ahead. Initially setting up RPM in Yum, Arca OS is already set up, but with no RPM in Yum installation, just installing the ANPM by itself, it will recognize you don't have one and install it. And I think that's just a beautiful solution to this, that we had to install your own bootstrap, make your own decisions when you're never used RPM before and you have no basis for making those decisions. So I think it's nice that ANPM has automated that part of it. So you know, if you're on Ecom Station and you haven't set this up, or you're on OS2 and haven't set this up, it can be set up rather elegantly. And ANPM is just downloaded from the Arcanoa website. It's a free download. So yeah, okay. When I put this up on the Warpstock website, the link will be in there to download ANPM. For the installing the compiler, I'm going to go back to the command line method because it's easier to show. And so to install the C compiler, yum install GCC does it. If you do not have the prerequisites, it will figure out what all the prerequisites are. But as far as doing any of the examples from Kernighan and Ritchie, not just Hello World example 1, but all the way through the book, all you'll need is yum install GCC. And that does simplify things quite a bit. Okay, I'm actually putting the source code for Hello World up here for people who haven't seen it, or the non-programmers. It's C code. It's kind of cryptic, but it's short, and that's a nice thing. I'm not really going to talk about it. Kernighan and Ritchie, the C programming language, is the first book for learning C language. It's still a fairly good way to start if you have no idea and you want to learn to program in C, which is an excellent choice for OS2 programming. This is a nice way to start. How to compile. You're at the command line again. GCC hello.c is going to compile and do all the work for you. At the end of it, it produces a hello.exe, which you can see is fairly substantial given the simplicity of that program. But I'm sure there are good reasons that it would be that large. And other compilers, it's just as large, so it's not a GCC kind of situation. And if you run it, it just prints on the command line hello world. So, how do you know? I mean, printf. How does it know what that is? In C, you have a bunch of simple constructs, and there's no way to print. But there is the libc contains a program that print, or a library routine that prints printf. So how did you know how to find printf? I went and looked. I'm expecting a compiler to have an include environment variable and track down everything from there. And it's not there. Turns out that RPM yum just assumes that your Unix root/include directory contains all the include files for the C compiler. I was kind of surprised at that, but it's once you know it, it's fairly easy. And sometimes you get a little confused about what's going on, and you don't have the manuals. You can just go in and look at the stdio.h, read it, it's simple C code, and it'll tell you quite a bit about how printf works. Printf's probably a bad choice there. You're going to have to go to the end of Kerning and Ritchie before you can actually read the definition of printf, but that's a detail. Library path. Hello, even though it's this nice standalone program that just prints out hello world, it actually depends on a lot of libraries, to tell you how to actually make output on a command line. And so how does it know how to find those library files? Where's the definition of those library files? It's in /lib. And that will show you, how the compiler finds external libraries. And so I printed out using a tool all the libraries that Hello World uses. And this new libcn0.dll, I guess I have the latest version of the C compiler because it pulled out that brand new library. And then it goes to a bunch of these other DLLs, which are all built-in OS2 DLLs. And then it all depends on GCC1.dll. I think this is another innovation, because it used to be GCC and then the name of your version. Now GCC1 seems to just be a forwarder. But then that calls that libc066.dll that we've talked about before. That's where the definition or the implementation of printf is going to be located. And then it has to call libcn again for some reason, probably to parse arguments. And DOS calls, so how do I make something go out to a command window?
How did you produce that recursive list? Is there a utility you used or something?
There's definitely a utility I used for that. I think I used PMDLL to that, just cut and paste. So PMDLL is a really useful tool for me. A lot of times I download an OS2 program and it doesn't run. Okay, so I launch it from command line and see, oh, okay, it gave an error message on command line. It doesn't do anything. If you double click on it, it just hashes and then unhashes. Failed due to error, but on command line it'll say you're missing libcn0 or something like that. And oh, that's great. Now what I do? But the PMDLL you can load hello.exe in there, and it will give a complete tree of everything it uses, and so it's a tremendous time saver. Particularly with something big like Firefox, that has a lot of dependencies. So that shows basically everything I need to know about Hello World. So I'm going to move on to a more complex program. PMMail is a mail program that I really had little interest in, but someone in Voice convinced me to be the project manager. I'm like, well, great. I'm not even really a PMMail user. Well, I guess I am now because I test it a lot. But I do know how to build programs, and so I took over that part, and I got all the developers to build the thing more or less the same way. So and then the developers kind of wandered off, as developers do, and so PMMail was left kind of orphaned. And fortunately, Greg Young was really irritated by a problem with PMMail, and
well, it was the new libc that broke it.
Okay, well, it was broken in many other ways. And
oh yeah, but
other ways.
That was the one that irritated me. Was the new libc broke it?
I am kind of embarrassed to say I have not released this new version because of various details with the install program, but I hope to soon. But PMMail, it's always limped along, and the new build that Greg the changes he made to it really have made it much more robust. It's just I can still crash it sometimes, but it's just a whole lot better. So what did I have to do? Okay. Did I really do that? Okay, OS2 Toolkit. This is in RPM Yum, and I want to take a shortcut. I had a whole build environment based on tools that I arranged myself anywhere on the hard drive, and I had the OS2 Toolkit, so I skipped RPM Yum on the OS2 Toolkit, and so I had to set it up with my build environment Rex program, or it's not even Rex, it's just the OS2 command file. And it sets various environment variables so that you can find the OS2. And this is the way things used to be done. Just have an environment and keep adding to path, adding to lib, adding, and adding Dr. Dial, adding every tool that I need step by step through the batch program until I have the entire build environment. So I had directories full of random programs that I just said, I need this and this and this and this to build PMMail. So here we go. I'm going to put them all in this directory and add them to it. So I started looking in RPM Yum. What tools are already there? Okay, so make is, I don't know if I can really explain make, but it's a tool that from a long time ago that we used to build PMMail, and basically it looks at dependencies. PMMail is built of these parts, okay, and those parts were built how, okay, and there's rules to say until I get back to source code. Okay, I had to compile this, take this library, do this, resource compilers, everything that goes into making PMMail is defined in that make file. Turns out that the kbuild make is close enough to the one we were using that it really wasn't much of an issue. So yum install kbuild make, and I don't have to use my random copy of I don't remember what make we used, but it was a very particular version, and I'm glad that what they decided to include in the RPM repository was compatible with the weird version we had. Okay. I guess I still needed to set some environment variables for the linker and the help compiler. I'm sorry for this being just a bunch of batch things. There's always going to be some details, even with RPM Yum. I imagine that someday we'll have this all sort of worked out so that you don't need so many.
I have a side question, because I've never done it. When you did your yum install GCC, did it pull in WL.exe for you?
It did not.
Because I couldn't see the dependency.
No.
It isn't a dependency.
You
You don't have to use
You
it.
don't have to use it, but for PMMail we did need to use it. I'm not sure exactly why. But
Well, you could have used iLink
okay.
if you had it.
Okay.
It's just that I changed it to WLink because
Okay.
I like tools I can fix.
Yeah. Okay. That's actually a good point.
Because
yes,
it was iLink.
IBM provided us with a bunch of tools that were pretty good in 1999 when they stopped developing. When Inotech first came out with GCC, I grabbed C++ textbook, the top-rated C++ textbook, and I just took the examples and I started compiling one after another with their compiler and a bunch of others. And even the IBM compiler from 1999 could not compile the examples from the beginning textbook for C++. But it did pretty well, and iLink was part of that package. The Inotech GCC, every example in the book compiled, and only the final example even generated a warning. And it was
With
just
iLink?
so superior, even with iLink. They didn't have their own linker at that time, but their compiler was so superior to the I was a Windows developer at that time. I used the latest copy of IBM's, Microsoft's compiler, well-used compiler. Everybody was using that one. Didn't even IBM's Visual Age 4 was better than that. So it was kind of appalling that, you know, Inotech had made something that was so superior in C++ compatibility back in 2003, I guess. So, oh. Yeah, that's a leftover thing. I like the OS2 command line. Somehow, a lot of their tools are set up to only work with the Unix shell. And so this is where I turned everything off so that it will work with OS2 command line. There's still some rough edges to this. Okay, here's all the things I needed to install in one line. Well, a line with a continuation to build PM Mail. And there are a few other tools. They are all in our Subversion repository, and that when you say, you know, give me the source for PM Mail and Subversion, it gets all the rest of the tools, and the build script sets them up. So,
Yeah, WIPFC is in there. You could actually install WIPFC this way too.
okay.
But it's in the tools, in the
Well,
PM Mail repository.
I should probably move it or rename it or something, but you know, as
It's
this
there.
yet, not everybody who still likes to compile PM Mail has made this transition yet, and so I don't want to break it for them.
Well, it wouldn't.
Yeah.
IPFZ if they want to use it, because
Yeah.
I didn't take it out of make files.
Yeah,
I
I wish I'd had a little more time and just had taken the time to put the OS2 toolkit in this as well, because it would have been interesting to see that the toolkit in RPM Young's repository is as good as the one that I install from the CD-ROM.
I haven't seen any difference.
When
Yeah.
you say our repository, what are you referring to? The one that
The
was
NetLabs
referenced?
repository.
The NetLabs,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm keeping this as vanilla as possible. There are other repositories we could use, but you know, there's the Arcanoa repository and the NetLabs repository on ANPM by default. Those are the ones I used, and I didn't want to use anything special. I'm not going to even try to explore all the different repositories that you can explore, but it's nice to be able, and this is typical of instructions for using RPM Yum. Here's the install line, yum install, and then a whole bunch of names. So GCC, the libcxdevel has the header files for all the new libc. A-spell development is our spell check. Watcom wlink is the, HLL is the linker. Watcom WIPFC is the help compiler, and kbuild make is the make that runs our make file.
And each of those, now, I don't think they do, but each of those could theoretically have 15 dependencies each.
Yeah.
Or more. I mean, I'm not limiting to 15. I'm just saying each of them could have their own dependencies.
Yeah.
And it's going to go grab those dependencies, whether 1 or 15 or 100. Doesn't care. It goes out there and figures out those dependencies for each one of those.
Yeah.
And when you do that, and it drops all that stuff out there helpfully for you, are you then gonna find some stuff, other stuff might not work, all this stuff, is that?
It
Happens, or-
rarely.
Yeah, right? I mean, I haven't had a lot of that happening a lot, but that's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can go back to the 90s and Google DLL hell and find out why.
The other thing that PM Mail can't use it, but there's also a WRZ which replaces the resource compiler.
Yeah.
But the reason it's a subset of RC.
Yeah.
And PM Mail uses a couple things that haven't been actually written into WRC.
Oh, okay. That makes a certain amount of sense. Then our environment needs to be slightly modified, and that's very particularly building PM Mail. We have a set of make files, and one of the make file has our, okay, you're building PM Mail, but you're building it on your machine. What drive letters, what directories are special for you?
What does that first thing mean? Is that just English, or is that a program?
Yeah,
or
no,
what?
that's English.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that means you added GCC 492 to that.
Oh,
It's
okay,
not
yeah, that
English.
shouldn't have been in, the
Make paths is something that you would modify before you build PM Mail
Yeah.
to fit your particular layout.
Okay.
Yeah.
In other words, and one of the things you can do is you can set it to use GCC 335.
Yeah.
And that's a common thing in a lot of, larger,
Yeah, and
projects.
a less necessary thing, once you have completely converted to RPM now, you may not need this at all.
Well, for PM mail, maybe not, but a lot of some
Yeah.
projects that are fully in that still because of other
Yeah, and,
things.
and choosing the compiler, that would still be an
Yeah.
issue, completely converted to RPM young. So, yeah, this is just an environment variable so that the help compiler can run. Okay, we were talking about the resource compiler. You must have this version to compile PM mail. And that, I don't remember how that was.
I think it's in the ECS toolkit, the
way
toolkit that's on
the-
the ECS disk.
The way that it was
Okay.
distributed originally is that this was required to build Mozilla.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how-
And Mike Capley had put it out where you could get it for building,
Yeah.
Mozilla, and people made sure to go get it because it
Yeah.
is much better than basically any of the other RCs and works in, like 4 had compatibility, 2 and 4, I can't remember which versions, they had compatibility issues. 5 works with almost everything. I found a few here and there that 5 wouldn't work with, but it was rare. Whereas 4 wouldn't work with them. You had to go to an older version. 5 worked with most things. And the other thing, I'm trying to remember what it fixed in particular. I think it was something to do with the number of, is it the number of, I thought it was like the entry points, number of entry points or something. I can't remember now. There was something very specific that it actually that it fixed that we needed.
Number
in-
of resources, maybe.
in,
RC doesn't really do entry points.
Yeah.
No,
but
something-
it does do, resources, number of resource sections, probably.
That could, maybe those resource strings, string table size or something.
Yeah,
Something, I can't
Yeah.
remember what it
I don't
was.
really
something like
recall
that.
what it was, but it was broken.
Yeah.
Until IBM fixed it. And the
Okay.
same is true for iLink too.
Yeah,
Don't
iLink.
forget we got a new version of iLink, so we can build Mozilla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Was
for a
that the
while there,
last
that's
version
when
of
you
RC,
used for GCT
RC
until it
compiler?
stopped
Was
working.
that the last
Yeah.
version? Do you know?
Wasn't the last version? I think it was, but I don't really know.
That one, I'm not sure it was
Yeah.
the last version, but it's the only one that works.
Yeah,
I
we're not very
cover
safe in saying the
registered that.
last version, People say, oh,
Late-
I gotta
latest,
fix
sorry,
this,
latest,
and
uh,
it's never gone through testing. but
Latest
that's one
version,
thing.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it may not be the
Translation
latest.
issue.
Yeah, it might not be the latest version, and how would you know if it's the latest version if it's only available at Mike Talpe's old Mozilla build site?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, the internal build files control the compiler version, the PML workspace, the toolkit location, the help compiler. Yeah. So, and yeah, okay. Here was the details of using GCC 492, which is the version that is installed by RPM Young.
And don't choose 830 because the executable you get doesn't actually work completely.
Okay.
Have you tried need the later one to see if any of that was fixed or not?
I haven't, and I'm not sure which one's broken. I'm not sure that it isn't 492 that's actually broken,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that they fixed it in 830, but that broke the workaround in BMail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as a side note for that thing, you need some brave people that'll actually help us stabilize Paul's recent compiler builds, because you
Yeah.
notice that 4, current GCC is 8.
Yeah.
You know, Paul's done
9.
all the work at getting
Nine.
it built.
Yep,
Nine.
We
there
should help
9
tell
is the
tell them where
current.
the bugs are.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I've got 9.10 on here that Paul.
if I can get the whole team working together on 492, the transition to 9 will be minor by comparison.
Sure.
So, one step at a time, but, yeah, compiler locations, there's just a bunch of details to go through, in setting up any complex program, there's gonna be a bunch of details, and I don't know why I included every detail in this. Oh, right, and no, is it time bombed, so I can put it up on the FTP site and say, hey guys, try out this version I'm thinking of releasing. So, time bomb there or not. Yeah. Okay, just a bunch of ridiculous things. Where did your subversion drop the source code? You know, what branch is it on? Just real details of how to build something like this. I'm sorry I really put all this in. I didn't need it. Yeah, that shows how we use our own toolkit libraries that aren't included in RPM-YUM, but since all of them are in Subversion, when you fetch, you've got them all. But you have to set that up. IPFC, OpenSSL, how we do our version of SSL. PMMail definitely needs work on SSL and TLS, but I'm not going to do it. I don't know. I'm not competent to do it. So, here we go. Okay, once it's built, I just incorporated a few commands to build the tip and build off of a branch. Whenever PMMail is actually released, I make a branch in Subversion and build off the branch. That way I could fix an existing version while still developing a tip. And the tip is the latest source code ever. You know, go ahead, make any change you want, and you know it's legal to break it. The branch is the released version.
Yeah,
You
don't
know.
check in the broken code though.
Yeah, don't check that code there, please. Okay. Yeah, when we moved up, you know, as I was saying, Greg made a number of changes, probably just because it's aggravating to have a broken mail program. Now, it's way smaller. Is that because it's built without debug, or?
No, it's because a lot of the libraries that used to be built into it are now external.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well.
And it may be that it is built without debug, and that may be
Okay.
part of it.
I think that's part of it because it was built for debug. The ones we sent out are built for debug, which actually kind of works out well during accept queue processing, I think. But it's
Well, except queue works.
Mhm. Well, that's an improvement too, because we kept putting it in and then breaking it and breaking it and breaking it. We were very, very careless.
Well, I put it in CX.
Okay.
Was the last GA version that was out, was it still based on 335 or was it already 492?
No, it's the old.
The old-
Everything
We
up
haven't-
until the one I built
Yeah.
was built with
Okay.
335.
Yeah, and you know, we're just struggling with the installation program, documentation, you know, and stuff like that. And it's a bunch of us together, and it's just like herding cats to get, you know, a simple install program written for it.
Okay.
You know, especially an install program just modified slightly.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, yeah, so we're still testing it.
And, the other dependency that you didn't have was XML library, which I'm now using the one for RPM-YUM.
Oh, okay.
But you can build it without it. You just have to set it correctly in the make files because you can still use the old library.
Okay, I have to remember that. But, yeah, I've been testing this build of PMMail, and I'm pretty satisfied with it. I have definitely made it screw up, but I had to work at it. It was always the case since we went to the XML that you would want to restrict the number of messages in a folder in PMMail. More than 10,000 is definitely dicey, and I don't know. That's not fixed, and maybe it's partly fixed, so you can get even deeper hole by exceeding the number. So I found that it no longer could fix the damage it did to the JFS file system when it went down on boot. You had to boot to an alternate partition and fix it using checkdisk there. So it was a good one.
File system, it's just a trap. It did.
Yeah.
I moved thousands and thousands of files into a folder, and then it died, and then,
Yeah.
and then just log redo failed on boot, but not
Yeah.
when you booted to an
That's what I
alternate.
was thinking, probably busted the journal.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Overwhelmed the journal because I was copying
Yeah,
so many
because
files.
it's got limits and what.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to see, hey, does this work for lots and lots of files? Drag.
There is no reason to believe that it would.
I was an optimist.
The only thing was the new XML library could have fixed some of that.
Okay.
But
good
it's not
idea.
something that, well, actually there was part of the code that was broken, used the XML library that I did fix. but-
Okay.
But
Well-
frankly, the thing is, that's sort of outside of PML. It would be nice if we could come up with a test case to make that happen outside
Okay.
of PML.
It's painful to give you instructions on how to do it inside PML due to certain limitations in PML. I would rather just make a batch file that set you up with a
Yeah.
one that's guaranteed to die, and you just think, I've got PML, run the batch file, you're now guaranteed to kill it. So
Because it's really just a huge DOS copy or a DOS move, one or the other.
yeah, no, I'm not sure where it went wrong, but yeah, and I've tested JFS with 1 million files. It should not have been just JFS, but it did.
That's,
It ran the system out of something at the time it was doing the copy. So
yeah.
yeah, right. Okay, so that's our adventure in building PML with these tools.
So which version is this gonna be when it comes out? You're
I think it's going to be 3.2.4. We have a 3.2.3 that is not released and probably will never be released. I don't know if it'll never be released, but it was like all the changes up till now built with GCC 3.5.5. Okay, here's our checkpoint. We're going to compare this build internally to the 3.2.4 build, which is done with GCC 4.9.2. And so I can go back and forth. In fact, I haven't needed to. The 4.9.2 build is good enough to release. I just need to get the installer good enough to release. And I can't do that alone. It's sort of a multi-person project. And it's like, this is your program. You fix it.
If we send you some money, will that help?
No. No, it won't.
No.
Well, you gotta send developers. Like, I sort of, every now and then get involved with helping Greg debug things. But I'm not a PML user because I hate the keyboard interface.
Oh, okay.
Anybody who thinks that function keys are a good keyboard interface is not my kind of people.
Okay.
I mean, it's, when you got 20 years of experience with PML, you don't know how to use any other mail program.
Second nature.
Yeah.
I'm just a mnemonic type guy, so it's just any application that uses too many function keys sort of loses it quickly.
Yeah.
That's why I use OS2.
The new version is more RPM based installer. That's what.
No, I'm not changing the installer to RPM Yum. It's still going to be the old Warpin
So
installer.
it's still pretty easy to upgrade an existing installation.
I want it to be, you have your old installation, install a new one, it's going to just overwrite it. Everything's organized the same way, but, yeah.
Except for the prerequisite DLLs that happen to be in RPM Yum.
Yeah. Now, many people say, okay, in the documentation, here's your Yum installer. That's my preference, rather than call RPM Yum from the warp, and I'd say, no, that's fraught with danger. So, but I'm planning to just have a very, well, if I get frustrated and say, your part, you're taking too long, forget it, it's out. Then it's going to be a very simple warp, and dump the files on your disk, make an icon, done. But all right, I think we're well into the lunch period.
We are ready for lunch. I just want to make an announcement
All
about
right.
that before we
Good.
go. You're done?
I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you.